My name is Sara Graf. I'm so thankful that everybody came today. Thank you so much. We are going to talk today about calm, focus, and ready to learn. So if you guys have ever sat here looking like this, all this information kind of floats around your head. And it's really hard if you have had a child diagnosed with ADHD, a learning disability, sensory processing disorder, to even know where to start, because there's so much information out there and people make it so complex. So the point of this is to give you easy, simple tips that you can take home and start practicing today. If you don't know your why, it's really hard to try. So like I said, the whole point of today is to know why you're doing these exercises with your kids so that it's easier for you to keep going and to push through on the days that seem really rough. So we're going to play with purpose. This is a little shot of a girl with Down syndrome that I do therapy with. And you guys will be seeing lots and lots of case stories today. Every single parent has given me permission to post their kids' pictures. But this little girl has Down syndrome. But I was at a babysitter's house, and the babysitter babysat for a little boy who had Down syndrome. And in the 4th grade, I said, whatever that lady does is what I want to do in life. And so in 2008, I finally got to go to First Steps. So I work with kids birth to 3 out of their homes and do early intervention therapy. And I also see some people out of my house for therapy on the side to try and help their brains be more focused and organized. Here is my family. You can see I've got 3 kids. They're ages 14, 12, and 8.5. And when I thought I was going to become a parent, I thought everything would look so organized, like these first couple of pictures. I thought everything was going to be amazing. I was an OT. Like, of course people would just fall in line. And I can tell you it's not like that. My life looks more like this picture here, where it says, I'm afraid what you have is called children. So it is extremely frazzling when you have kids, especially multiple kids, and they're running in different directions and trying to help organize yourself as well as their brains. And that's what I'm going to give you some tips for today, but know that it's a learning process, and every day your goal is just to do better than you did the day before. The way today's class will be, we'll talk about the sensory processing system and what sensory processing disorder is. We'll discuss the different parts of the brain and how they're organized. We'll discuss the left and the right part of the brain and how to avoid the traffic jams that always seem to happen in our brain. So first, we're going to talk about the sensory processing machine. If you look here, you take in the information, you then process the information, you respond, and you get feedback, and then you go back again. So let's take, for instance, you touch a hot stove. You touch a hot stove, you process it, and you're like, oh, that's hot. You remove your hand off the stove, and you say, wow, that feels better. I shouldn't touch the hot stove again. In some people, this whole loop does not respond the way that it should. Some kids can touch this hot stove. What they process is, wow, this feels really good. So what's their response? They keep their hand on the hot stove. What's their feedback? I love the feeling of the hot stove. And so that loop continues. Kids that bang their heads like crazy, they might need input to their head. So what do? They bang their head. What happens? Even though it would hurt us like crazy, in their brain it registers, wow, this is the input that I needed. What do they keep on doing? They keep on banging their head, and the loop continues to support that cycle. So what we're going to learn about today is the different systems of vision, touch, taste, smell, hearing, balance, and positioning. We'll go through all those senses so you can kind of get a feel for how the kids respond and different ways to respond to them. So here, walking into a supermarket, lots of kids have trouble in the supermarket. And I just want you to look at this picture. I am cold all of the time. So if you see this sign here that says frozen, right away I'm in a bad mood because I am cold. Look at all the visual information going on there. There's lots of different colors. There's big lights coming down from them. Then you have to be able to navigate around this little sign here that says caution, wet floor. And hopefully you have good balance so you don't accidentally slip. Then you go through here and it says big deals. For my brain, I really stress out. Is this really the best deal? And I analyze how many of these should I buy, or should I buy them, because it wasn't really on my list. And so my brain just went from being calm to overly frazzled looking at the supermarket in one aisle. But I am an adult, and I know that I can take a deep breath. Logically, does it matter if I buy those things or not? And I have to talk myself through it. A little kid, though, is not able to do that. And that's where we need to be aware of the environment, what is stressing them out, and then how should we help them respond. So when we look at sensory processing disorders, you can be undersensitive, so the kid that can bang their head off the floor and not even realize that it hurts. You can be overly sensitive, that I could barely touch you, and it feels like a knife going into your body. So you can actually be oversensitive in some areas, undersensitive in others. It is a crazy nightmare trying to navigate how these kids work. And this is one of my favorite pictures ever. It says, Billy, listen, I'm tactile seeking and you're tactile defensive. Either we go and see an occupational therapist or this relationship is over. So if you're tactile seeking, you just can't get enough of touching somebody. And this little girl's like all over this boy. And this boy is like, leave me alone. I cannot stand you being anywhere close to me. So when a child can't calm down, they need connection and comfort, not criticism and control. So this little girl in the picture here, she constantly got into her family's laundry. Anytime that they would fold laundry, she would jump in and just make this big mess. Okay, that's not appropriate. Like, you do have boundaries. But the mom was amazing. She was able to put a container of mismatched socks in a container like that. This girl, anytime she wanted to, was able to jump into this pile of socks and have an amazing heyday. So we have to give options. You can't tell them no without giving them an option of what they are allowed to do instead. So this story is so amazing, and the mom is here, so it makes it even more emotional for me not to cry as she wrote this poem for me. But we were talking about how people just don't get it, what it feels like to have a child with a sensory processing disorder. Because they look so normal, the world does not understand. And so as I read this, I will try and stay strong. So, have you heard of SPD or know what it is? Meet Cameron, my 2.5 daughter, who has sensory processing disorder, that is. All this info may seem long. Please read and follow along. It's about Cameron and her SPD, teaching awareness through her personality. Cameron loves to run, not walk. Roughhouse with her brother till he's tired and can't talk. She likes to help her mommy around the house, putting away dishes or sweeping the floor, carrying groceries that weigh 5 pounds or more. She likes playing with puzzles, Play-Doh, and Legos, a bath full of toys consisting mostly of superheroes. She has a tent where she hides and keeps herself safe, away from all the noises that people tend to make. She likes to suck on her fingers and chew on things. She loves to dance while she sings. She uses a spinning brush on her teeth, cold water only, and no heat. She will talk and tell stories without trying to shout. More than 2 words will be all that you make out. She points and gestures while grabbing your hand, pulls you along to show you the best that she can. She likes to be squished, not hugged. She submerges herself with socks inside a big tub. To brush her hair can be a chore, like getting her dressed to get out the door. Some days are harder than others. Thank God for the help from her sister and brothers. She means well, but sometimes gets mad. She may throw something in anger, but then will get sad. To say she's picky is an understatement. She likes popcorn, troll gummies, and only McDonald's nuggets. She is very smart, there is no doubt. She knows all her colors and can count. It's her senses that are extreme. way more than it may seem. Lights and sounds may be too much. Holding her hand is even rough. Sometimes she will slobber and or spit when she's upset and throwing a fit. She has the best laugh and smile when she gets to hang upside down for a while. She loves to spin and twirl around till she's dizzy and falls down. Just remember, most of all, whether she's home or at the mall, give her the space she needs. Do not touch her unless she agrees. You guys have a sheet on your handouts that's a little bit different than this, but it does say, do you know me? And there's some little things that you can look at to try and help kids figure out like what part of their body might be having a little bit more difficulty. So if we look at Cameron, if you go to the head, she hates to have her hair touched or cut. She has trouble listening to directions. Loud noises don't bother her, but lots of noises. So she can tolerate a vacuum cleaner. She can't tolerate crowds like at a game. She likes to chew on things, and her speech is hard to understand. Sorry. She likes to suck on her fingers. Really hot and cold temperatures don't seem to faze her. She likes stretchy clothes. She has a high tolerance for pain, so she can fall down and has no pain tolerance. She hates wearing her shoes and socks, even though those boots are quite cute. So she loves to run more than walk. She's very, very flexible in all of her joints. She doesn't like being kissed or hugged, but she loves being squeezed. And she resists new foods and textures. And flashes of lights really scare her. So even though her mom is a photographer, it's been hard to get pictures because if you have a flash of light, she really gets upset by that. So this story was really amazing. The first session I ever saw Cameron, she, like I had said before, hated to be touched. I had no idea. I came into here, she approached me, I squished her, we jumped on couches, I spun her around like there was no big deal. The next thing I know, at the very end, she was tired and she took a nap in her mom's arms. And her mom kind of got teary-eyed and I said, well, what's going on? She says, do you not see her touching her brother's hand? And I said, well, yeah. She says she never lets her brother sit on my lap with me. And she hates being touched. And do you see how she's laying against my lap? She never, ever cuddles in. Her head is always away from me. And I was like, this was only one session. This is quite amazing. And this little girl has come really far. She has the coolest bed here that you can see with all kinds of things to squish her. She uses this vibrating massager, and I will pass it around. This is amazing. You can put up to your jaw. It just kind of wakes up your body. She has lower tone, which means that her body's a little bit more floppier than other people, more flexible. So I put this a lot on people's backs, and it helps to wake it all up. So this little $5 massager can make a huge difference. So I will pass that around. I told you before about the tub of socks. It makes her super happy. She pulls heavy items all throughout the house, and that is so good for the joints to help her to be able to calm down. They have set it up in their living room where she is allowed to jump and do Supermans into this huge beanbag chair. And squishing her makes her body feel so good and helps her to be able to focus and use more words. And she loves to be spun. So you can see that her head is really dangling around and just kind of flying. And I do that on purpose so they get more inner ear input. And that helps them to calm down and to be able to produce more words. The next girl I'm going to talk about is Hadley. Hadley, if you see this, she would cry if anybody came to see her at the house. If anybody said hi to her in the store, she would bust out in tears. When I was in therapy with her for the first 3 sessions, she would look underneath a blanket like this at me, So I had to actually, she hated baths as well. So I actually had to work with her family, her mom and her grandmother, to do the therapy with her because she wouldn't let me touch her. And so we worked on these exercises of making the lazy 8, which you guys will learn later, about marching, touching the opposite sides of the brain, the vibrating massager, which I'm passing around. They had to plan ahead, kind of tell her what to expect in her day before they did anything. She would let me do Play-Doh, and they did Play-Doh a lot. We rolled down hills, and I mean rolled. Me, her grandma, her mom, the kid. Rolling is one of the most amazing things you can do. It activates your inner ear. It gives deep, deep pressure to your whole body. And then we play games like Perfection where they pop, and she has to realize that startle response and be okay with it. And then she also had to realize that it's okay if things aren't perfect, that we can put them back together. 3 sessions later, again, I did not touch her during those 3 sessions. She went from me not being able to look at her to walking down the aisle at her parents' wedding. She danced at her parents' wedding and up on stage on the cruise boat. That is crazy progress for a therapist who's quiet in your home not to look or let you touch them. And for the brain to have received all the input that it needed for 3 sessions and to be up on stage. The other fun story, this little baby came to see me. She was 9 months old. And you can see, this was all she could do. She could only lay flat on the ground. I did some joint compressions where you just push the hips together a little bit a couple times. I did that vibrating massager that you guys are passing around. 10 minutes later, she was rocking on all 4s. So the doctors wanted to get hip x-rays because she wasn't able to put any weight through her legs or arms. And this is what can happen in just 10 minutes. This video is kind of fun. We are going to learn about exercises of rocking so that we can help your whole nervous system from head to toe integrate different reflexes. So I'll show you guys these videos and then we'll discuss why they work. So what you want is a yes look when you're rocking your kid. And this is my nephew. Hello. So there's rocks on the back, rocks on each side. So you want the head going back and forth, and you're also organizing the whole spine. A lot of kids come to me and they're not connected from their head to their spine. They're the kids who wiggle all over everywhere, have trouble sitting still, and they just can't focus. ADHD is a big thing with these kids. This is row your boat, and you want their heads to go back and forth in all of these sit-ups. The crazy dance I do, it shakes their arms, it helps to loosen up their neck and give input to the head all at the same time. And this is kind of what therapy looks like all the time with me. I tell people I have the best job in the entire world because I get paid to play. Here is head, shoulders, knees, and toes. And what you do on this one is helping you squeeze like you would a firm handshake. And it helps the person to be organized from the head all the way to their toes. And a lot of kids who have trouble speaking or their words are not as clear, this part of their body does not have the sensations that it should. So as you're doing the head, shoulders, knees, and toes, you kind of push like this for their nose. and you come in like this for their mouth. Here's one of bouncing on the ball. Older kids can bounce themselves. As you're bouncing, it helps to activate the inner ear to get a lot more sounds. The constant squishing on the ball helps kids even to be able to focus. My daughter actually has a ball chair in her classroom so that she can focus better in school. You go backwards and forwards on the ball to activate all parts of the body. And when I do paperwork, I do sit on the ball. Otherwise, I cannot focus. And there I am going down the spine again, from the head all the way to the butt, organizing them so that they know exactly where their shoulders are at for more head support and where their back is at. The next one, you guys do have these sheets on your papers. There's 2 different columns that talks about different input that you can do. It doesn't look quite like this. It might say activities to help organize the brain. Here it is, how to help. It's underneath the pink section of your handouts. So with proprioceptive input, what we want is information into all your joints. So you get that through anything that causes you to push, pull, heavy work. So there's obstacle courses that you can use to climb, crawl, go through tunnels, jump over items, and roll. You can sit in a beanbag chair or a hammock chair. You can play with Play-Doh, putty, or stress balls. Chewing gum or eating crunchy or chewy foods, I do this all the time, and I'm glad I don't have paperwork to do every single day because I would weigh over 500 pounds. But in order for my poor brain to focus, I have to be chewing gum or have crunchy or chewy foods. If you squeeze your hands or arms together, and you'll notice me do this a lot, I speak with my hands, but I also teach kids to do this. If you ever even sit there like this, some people do that. That's also sensory input into your mouth that helps you to be able to focus. Hugs, tug of war, climbing on playgrounds, heavy work, pulling a wagon, pulling weeds, pushing a wheelbarrow, digging in dirt, rolling up in a tight blanket, big hugs, carrying items, or a heavy backpack. If you go to the other side, we're working on the vestibular system. This helps more with being able to activate new words. If you're really high energy, you can do these activities first and then calm the body down with the other column, that's proprioceptive input. So spinning in circles, but after you spin in circles, make sure you squish the kid. Bouncing on a trampoline or a therapy ball, swinging, rolling and doing somersaults, rocking in a chair, bike rides, swimming, and jumping jacks. The thing is, you have to modulate how the kid is doing. So if the kid does these activities and they're calm, that's successful. If they do these activities and they're higher energy or more temperamental than when you started, it means that you need to add some more things from this toolbox list to help them be able to focus. And the things that you'll add in come from the proprioceptive input line. And sometimes it can take 15 minutes to calm a kid. And so what I have here, when I was growing up, I obviously didn't know that I had a sensory processing disorder. Nobody told me. But I loved climbing trees. I loved walking across the trees that would be falling over in my creek and things like that. Then chewing gum, I told you, like I would always have this big array if I needed to study. I had straws, I had regular cups, I had suckers, I had gum, I had pretzels. And then I laid on my floor, and I had this big beanbag chair that laid right on top of me. Sometimes if I was super stressed, I would even lay between the box spring and the mattress. And I had no idea that this wasn't normal for other people to do. And so I go to school, and they're talking about like sensory integration, and they're like, these activities work, and they help your body to calm down. And I was like, oh, I was smarter than I thought. The other funny thing that I find is the Jesus hug, that I call it. My dad was the only person who was allowed to hug me if I was stressed out. So my dad is 6'3", this big guy. And I would get so stressed, and I'd be like, Dad, just squeeze me hard. And my mom was the one that I always came to if I was ever upset, if I needed like a loving hug. But if I was stressed out, my dad was the only person who I would let touch me, and I would just stand like this, and he would squeeze me so tight. And the other thing that I love to do is to ride in a car and put the windows down, or anything just to get that air on my face, and that would calm me down whenever I was having high anxiety. Talking about foods that will support your mouth. This is on your list too. It's on this page, for anybody who's having trouble finding it. So what you want is crunchy, chewy, or arousing foods. So they actually produce a chemical in your brain that helps your brain to be able to calm down. The other thing that can help your mouth is drinking smoothies or milkshakes through a straw, drinking applesauce, yogurt, pudding, Jell-O through a straw. A vibrating toothbrush does wonders to wake up the mouth. Crayola is my favorite spin brush. And then the other thing is a vibrating massager, the one that we passed around earlier. And people ask, how much can sour spray really help? Here's a little boy that I started doing therapy with, and he was missing tons of his facial bones. He was missing hip bones. One of the most complex kids I've ever done therapy with. And to the degree that me and his mom didn't even know if he had a tongue. I was given goals that I had to work with him to help him be able to eat food. And I'm like, okay, how are we going to do this? So we started doing sour spray in his mouth. The sour spray that you can only find at either Family Dollar or Dollar General. And the sour spray woke up his tongue enough that he started sticking it out. So much so that he learned to be able to eat, and he now eats ice cream cones. All from the work of sour spray. One of the best dollars ever spent. So we're also going to talk now about primitive reflexes. They are supposed to disappear and be replaced by postural reflexes by the age of 12 months. If primitive reflexes are not integrated by 12 months, it causes problems with learning, behavioral, social, sensory, and health problems. So you guys have a chart on here. It's the full page chart that looks at all these baby reflexes. So we're going to go through each of the reflexes, talk about why we even have them, and what happens when they are not integrated. So the first one is called the Moro reflex, fight or flight. So it helps a baby the first couple months of survival. If you accidentally drop the baby, it's going to cry. If it's hungry, it's going to cry. If it hears a loud noise, it cries and it says, protect me. What they do is their arms go like this. What happens is a lot of kids, they get the same all day long. Their nervous system feels like we are walking in a graveyard at night. So think about, like, if I came up to you and touched you now, you guys would be like, oh, it's Sarah, we're good. But if you're walking in a graveyard at night and somebody accidentally tapped you on the shoulder, think about how scary that would feel. This is what their poor nervous systems feel like every single day of their life. So the good news is that there are exercises that we will learn at the very end about ways to help the whole nervous system. When I talk about integrating from here to here, that's part of the exercises that they need to help their bodies to be able to calm. Some of the signs that you will notice with them, they're very hyperactive, they have lots of anxiety. They have immune disorders because their body is constantly producing cortisol levels. And all of these adrenal glands are working so hard because the adrenal glands are supposed to help you run away from a bear. So if you see a bear, your adrenal glands have to kick in so you can run. Unfortunately, a bright light at Walmart makes their adrenal system bump up. All day long, they're up here, so their body never gets to relax and calm down, which is why they have so many immune disorders as well. They can have motion sicknesses, poor balance and coordination. They can have poor digestion, again, because their system is way up here. It can't calm down to digest the food. Allergies and asthma and ADD and ADHD are common with us. The next one is asymmetrical neck reflex. So it helps them get out of the womb. It also helps them to learn how to roll over. Early eye-hand coordination, so you turn your head this way, you turn your head, and the whole body comes with you. So it helps bringing the hand to the mouth and stuff like that. What happens if it's not integrated? They have trouble crossing the midline of their body. They have poor eye-hand coordination. They have difficulty reading because reading requires you to go across. They have difficulty tracking visual information. They can't go across because their whole body is going with them. Poor depth perception. So how far is something in front of me? If I have to step over this cord, do I take a giant step or do I just need a little step? Head, shoulder, neck problems, poor handwriting. And what I love, a lot of wrecks, I don't love it, but this is the easiest one to see it in people. When somebody turns and you're holding the steering wheel and you look behind you, people tend to make the steering wheel go with them. That's part of this AT&R that is not integrated yet. Here is symmetrical tonic neck reflex. So what it helps is the kids rock on their hands and knees, and this is how they learn to crawl and move. If it's not integrated, they tuck their legs underneath them when they sit. And this is one I still have to work on for myself. I'm really bad at this. They have poor posture and slouch. They have visual tracking problems because if they look up, if they move, they lose the place for where they're looking at. If they are trying to write and copy from the board, they can't do it. They looked up and then they can't find their spot when they go back down. They're sloppy eaters. They're very fidgety. They W set, so their legs go back like this, and they slump while they're sitting. Tonic labyrinth reflex. It helps you get in a good position for your birth. It helps the baby be able to roll, crawl, and stand. What happens when it's not integrated is that everything goes wrong. That goofy guy who tries really hard to do all these nice things, and everything goes wrong for Goofy. He's so uncoordinated. He might be carrying boxes for you, and they spill out everywhere. So they have poor balance, poor posture. Gravitational insecurity means that you have trouble walking in different grounds. So if you go from here to grass, or if you're trying to walk across heights, you just don't know where you are exactly. Poor speech, poor sense of rhythm. So don't ask them to tap anything out. It affects a lot of reading and writing when you have poor rhythm. And they slump and bump into people. So if you've ever seen these kids that in line, they cannot stay in the line. They bump into everybody. It annoys the teachers, it annoys the other kids around them, but they really just don't have good body space awareness. The next one is the spinal gallant. So it encourages movement in the womb. If you barely touch the side, their leg comes up. It also helps the babies to be able to urinate right after birth. If it's not integrate, you get digestion problems, you get bedwetting long after being potty trained. Poor trouble concentrating and attention, posture problems, short-term memory problems, fidgeting like ants in the pants, and you prefer to wear loose clothes. So this entire area, all through here, constantly feels funny to them. So if they're touching against the back of a chair, it doesn't feel good. If they have waistbands around them, that really bothers them. So those are the kids who would prefer to run around naked instead of have their clothes on them. They hate sitting. You might slouch or they might kneel. Just don't let the back of their back touch. The last one is the palmar reflex. So this one helps learn how to hold items. So initially, if you touch a newborn baby's hand like this, they'll grasp around it. But what happens if that doesn't turn into grasp what they mean to grasp, and all of these hands gets well developed? They get messy handwriting, poor handwriting skills. You can see there are tons and tons of different ways to write. And if you write wrong, it makes it really hard to read. You use the wrong muscle, so your hands tire, and you can't write as fast. So the way that you are supposed to hold a pencil is with 3 points like this. Lots of kids hold it like this. They have it between their fingers, all kinds of funky ways. So the good news is that exercising 15 minutes a day, and sometimes it takes even less, can completely transform your child's life. These exercises are all on there. So rocking on your hands and knees, you get on all fours right here, and you go back and forth. You don't go past where your fingers are located, though, when you rock forward. Cat arches, you go and you arch your back up, and you breathe in. And then you go down, and you arch up. Rocking your body on your hands and feet, you push forward with your hands and your feet. And the other one is sliding on one's back. So these 4 exercises, and after the class, I can work with anybody who wants to see them more. We can work on those. From there, this one kid came to me. He walked like this. His knees were in. He was on the sides of his feet and walked like this into my house. And he's 14 and a half, almost 15. And I looked at his mom. I said, well, what's going on with him? And she says, I don't know. Nobody's ever been able to diagnose him. And I said, okay, let's see what we can do. So I did some craniosacral therapy with him with a light touch that touches your head and your spine. We then did those exercises I just showed you. It was only 4 sessions, and 6 weeks later, he came in, and his feet were normal. So then I said, oh, maybe it's because of the high tops. So that night I texted the mom. I said, go have him take his shoes and socks off and run up the steps and walk all around the house. He could not make his legs bow in again. It was incredible. And just from doing those 4 exercises I just showed you. So when we talk about learning disabilities, it means that all this information is coming in and we don't know what to do with it. I don't know if any of you guys love I Love Lucy, but there's an episode where she's supposed to be boxing up all these chocolates. Well, somehow somebody increased the speed accidentally, and she couldn't keep up, and her friends are like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And all they could think of is to grab it into their mouth as fast as they could so that it wouldn't fall over. And I feel like that's what a lot of these kids are doing. They can't keep up with what we're trying to teach them. And they're trying to do anything possible, and their brains are storing this information all over in the wrong places, and they are one unorganized mess. So I love, love, love the story about Thomas Edison. He apparently had difficulty in school, so much so that a letter came home to his mom that says, your son is mentally deficient. We cannot let him attend our school anymore. He's expelled. However, when he handed the note to his mom, and he says, well, what does it say? She read him this. Your son is a genius. This school is too small for him and doesn't have good enough teachers to train him. Please teach him yourself. From that point on, she homeschooled him, and he believed his whole life that he was a genius because of what his mom had told him. After she died, he found the original note from the school, and so he wrote this in his diary. Thomas Edison was a mentally deficient child whose mother turned him in to the genius of a century. So now I need participation from everybody. We are going to see which one is your dominant eye, ear, hand, foot, and brain. So I want you to pretend like you're looking through like a telescope and only put it up to one eye. So like this. And then write down whichever eye you put it up to. The next one that you're going to do is you're going to pretend like you really, really want to listen to somebody at the wall. So put your ear up to a wall or hold the phone up to one of your ears. And whichever one that is, write it down. Whichever hand you're writing with is the one that's your dominant hand. Pretend like you are kicking a ball. And whichever foot you kick with is your dominant foot. Next, we're going to look at the brain to see which part of the brain is your most dominant side. So, if you are left-brained, you're more logical. Language, writing, reading, listening, calculations, logic, sequencing, that's just the way your brain thinks. Very, very logical. Your right side of your brain is super creative. You love seeing things, a visual learner. You love looking at all the pretty pictures. You love drawing, that creative side. Did everybody finish all those? Okay. So what we're going to look at now is what happens with a learning disability is that half of your brain shuts down under stress. So we have something in our brain called the corpus callosum. And it connects the two sides of your brain. So if you look right here, that straight line down is your corpus callosum. And I'll pass this brain around because it's just kind of fun to look at the different parts. But your left brain is logical. Your right brain is creative. So whichever part of the brain you're storing most of your information in, you can only pick one of them when you're under stress. So say that my right eye is dominant, and that one is actually stored on the right part of my brain. Eyes are the only one that are stored images on the same side. That's on the right side of my brain. But so anything that I take in with my eyes, it's stored right here. If I need to write it down, though, I'm right-handed. So which side do I have to use? My left, because everything else crosses. So if I learned something through vision, and my body is shutting down, my brain has shut down, I cannot pull the information correctly from that when I am super stressed. If I take in information through my ear, and depending on which side of the brain I store it from, so the information that you let me hear, that's really hard to pull up if that's not on my dominant side of the brain. So a lot of kids with learning disabilities, you could be working with them all night long. And they know it for you because they're not stressed right now. They go to school and they get stressed out. All that information, they can't reach for it where they need to reach for it. And we will be learning techniques to help cross that midline so that they can effectively use both sides of their brain. Here's your brain. So here's a good sample. My son, I didn't realize how left-brained he was. He was in kindergarten. He was amazing at memorizing all of his math facts. Addition, subtraction, either way you asked him, he was good. The teacher then gives him this worksheet here that you can see like the frogs. So there's a total of 5 frogs, and you can see 4 of them are hopping away. He's like, I don't get it. What do you want me to do? And then down here, you've got 4 spiders, and 2 of them fell off. He could not fill out that math equation of 4 minus 2 equals 2. But if you would ask him at any point of the day what 4 minus 2 was, he could tell you within a second that that was 2. My other friend's daughter was completely right-brained. So this is the way she learned. She could see it. But if you asked her what 4 minus 2 was, she had no idea. So this was the perfect example of right versus left brain. And some people are super literal. So if you look at this, Amelia Bedelia was asked to dress a chicken. And so that is exactly what she did. What I want you to do now is I want you to look at this chart, and you're going to say the color, not the word. So this one would be red. So go through and say all of them to yourself. So this is a perfect example of the right-left brain conflict. The right brain tries to tell you the color, so I would say red. The left brain wants you to be logical, and it can easily read the word black. I want you guys to raise your hands if anybody, this task was really easy, to say the color and not the word.
We're trying to work that.
Awesome. Now look at this picture. Raise your hand if you see a duck. Raise your hand if you see a rabbit. Okay. So if you see the duck first, it means that your visual input when you look at something, you always go from the left to the right. If you are looking at this image and you saw a rabbit first, it means that you are reading from the right to the left. So the term dyslexia technically just means difficulty with reading. And there are so many ways that it can present for people. Some people are completely debilitated by it and have extreme trouble reading. Other people can do it, and it's not a big problem at all. So what we're looking at here, Jack and Jill ran up the hill. Do you see how it's a little bit blurry? It's not as clear as the other words have been. For some people, things are just blurry. And that's how, I am not diagnosed with dyslexia, but if I am tired, that's how things look to me. Like they're not super clear when I want to read. Other people, their letters actually turn around, like in that one right there. And they have to think, what is this? What does it look like? Other people, the spacing is different. So if you look at the word dyslexic, that could be 3 different words. And somehow they have to retrain their brain that this is one word. Some people look like this. It's all over the place. The letters kind of drop down, and it's really hard to see. Other people have it like this. The word is all mixed up. They don't even see the letters in order that they are. The W and M just got completely reversed. Some things that I love are colored lenses. If I am really tired and have to read something, I will use my blue overlay. My daughter loves these colored glasses. Most people have one color that makes a big difference for how their brain can read things. My daughter likes to go through the whole array of rainbows. So this is how she learned all of her math facts. This is how she learned all of her sight words. Is she would just take one pair of glasses, put them back, and we would just transfer glasses for 30 minutes till she got through the assignment. So I will pass these all around so you guys can see these. And you can try them out.
Where did you get the glasses like that at?
Amazon. So the whole package of like 8 of them are maybe $80 on Amazon. They're meant to be for color therapy. So some people have research saying that wearing a different color and wearing colored glasses can help you feel different moods. But I bought them initially for my son because he could read like no other. His words were super duper fast, but he could not comprehend what he was reading. So we tried this with him, and it helped a little bit of getting different colors. Like I would tell him, I'm thinking of a place, that has sand and water. And he would say, my backyard. Well, we do. We have a pool and we have a sandbox. But the majority of the world just thinks ocean. And so some things I would read, and he wouldn't even put pictures to his brain. And so if you activate the right side of your brain, which is your creative side, that's what all these colors do. They are processed by the right side of your brain. And so they can help kids that have comprehension problems to be able to read not just the words, which is your left side, but to use your right side to focus more. Some other things I do with children that have dyslexia is missing mysteries in word searches. And so you have to try and look and teach yourself that things look different between the two pictures. So like as you can see here, this one here is missing some of the dots. Those are subtle, subtle differences that you have to pick out. You come down here and look how different these are. Like this one's missing its whole circle. This one's missing the stems down. And you have to draw all these pictures to match the one right here. And the more you teach them to look for things, the more it can rewire the brain and help them to be able to read a lot better. The other thing that's really helpful is having lined paper. It tells them where to start and where to stop. And unfortunately up here you can't tell, but each of these have grids in them. Mead, M-E-A-D, makes this amazing paper. So my one son has horrible sloppy writing, but if he wrote within each of these little grids on this paper, he could write nice and neat. Other kids who would misspell all their words, I would teach them, like, wait, this word has 4 blanks. Make sure you have filled in 4 of your squares. And it helps them to be able to go back and check themselves. One of my favorite things of learning how to cross the midline was a lady I worked with who had had a stroke. So she sat there for over 3 minutes and could not figure out how to fold these towels. We did the simple exercises of crossing in front of her to cross the midline. We made these lazy 8s with our arms, and she folded these towels within 15 seconds. So going from 3 minutes, not even realizing how to match up a towel, to folding it in 15 seconds by crossing the brain. My friend's daughter is here now. She has been the most fun girl ever to work with on helping to overcome her dyslexia. So she came to me originally because she had migraines, and what we found was so much more. She had stated that she struggled her whole life, not able to memorize things, difficulty reading, kind of felt dumb her whole life. They finally diagnosed her in high school with dyslexia. We do these simple activities of crossing her brain. We've done craniosacral therapy, and she reads with the overlays. And she said that most days she reads just fine unless she's completely tired. That's kind of crazy. I mean, she noticed a session. Josie, was it 2 sessions? Yeah. 2 sessions. And her brain had figured out ways to do it. Sometimes she listens to music while she's doing it, which keeps her brain focused. But she will be sharing at the very end, and she will be answering questions if anybody has questions about like what it feels like to have dyslexia and the programs that we have used with her that have really made a difference. So now I need everybody to stand up. We are going to do the first exercise here. So what you do is you're touching your opposite arm to your opposite leg. So you're going to do it 10 times. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, 10, 10. You're then going to do it behind your back. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, 10, 10. So that works the front and the back part of your brain. The next part we're going to work on is the sides of your brain. So you do kind of like the disco move. 1, 1, 2, 2. I love to see how organized people are. 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, 10, 10. Some of you guys need to work on it. So make sure you're doing opposite sides out. And that works the side parts of your brain. The next thing we're going to do is learning how to lock up here at the bottom. So you cross your knees, or cross your ankles. Hands go like this, and you fold them in. And you take 3 deep breaths. The next one we're going to work on is the ear flaps. Your ears are called your thinking caps. They actually map out your entire body. So when you do your ear rubs, they will help you to organize from head to toe. So you rub your ears, you kind of lightly, the flaps, rub them out. And you go all the way down 3 times. If you ever watch me in church, I am constantly rubbing my kids' ears, and it keeps them focused and on task. The next one we're going to do is the lazy 8, right there with our arms, and I have another picture that makes it easier to see. So you start here, and you go up and to the left, and then over to the right. So hands together, you go over, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. And so if you're doing it on a piece of paper, you would do it 10 times with one hand that way, 10 times the other hand, and then fingers together. That significantly improves test results through all the studies that they have done. So it's a simple, simple thing that I even have my daughter's teachers doing in the middle of class. Everybody can sit down now. Thank you. Next, we're going to talk about stress and anxiety. So we have talked a lot in the earlier parts about what happens and some fundamental underlying reasons that we can get stress. I'm going to start passing around some oils now, some different smells. Different smells can help us to be able to focus, to be able to calm down. So you can smell all of these. I love Stress Relief from Bath & Body Works. I included in here, these are beadlets, peppermint beadlets. They are teeny tiny. So if you would like to, you can take one, you put it in your mouth and bite it. It cleans out all of your sinuses and it helps to decrease stress. It's amazing. And then you down it with water. There is something here called Sleepy Time. It's really great to calm your body down, to just help to sleep or just to decrease anxiety. In Tune smells a little funny, but it is really good if you put it on the back of the neck to help people that have ADHD. This one is peppermint and wild orange. If you want to try it, you can put it on underneath your behind your ears. You can put it on your forehead, and you can put it on the back of your neck to help you be able to focus more. And then I just have one of my favorite perfume samples. It just helps me if I'm having a stressful day to wear this one. It smells clean. My favorite smell ever is clean laundry and soap smell. So the other thing you can do is if you wear something and you're around smells that you do not like a lot of kids are so sensitive, I have them put lotions on and then just smell their hands like this, that nobody has any idea that you're smelling on their wrists. So they can just sit there and do that where it doesn't make a big notice. Yes?
That'll help him in a restaurant, right? When he thinks everything's disgusting, he yells at everybody, tells them that's gross.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So what we're looking at here, it says, sorry you guys can't see it all. Let me see if I move this. So the bills are paid. So the bills are washed. The laundry is paid. The clothes are in the oven, and the last load of dinner is in the dryer. Who says I can't multitask? So when we have too many things on our plate, things get too stressful, and our brain does not work like it should. And that is something just to keep in mind, is what do we need to, one, decrease off our plate so that we are not so stressed. And number two, what's some techniques that we can use to calm ourselves. There's another picture of a completely unproductive person who has all of these different multitasking jobs going on, but nothing is going very well. The final picture is what happens to our body is we see a bear and we're like, ah, bear. If we feel that way all the time, our body produces so many chemicals and it just wears us down. So here's some things to keep up on of how it can affect our body. We can have issues with our mood, causing depression and anxiety, sadness, sleeping issues, headaches and pain, mental health issues. Skin, so many people get acne or rashes on their skin. Psoriasis totally goes to the roof whenever we have more stress issues. Joints and muscles, tons of pain can happen because of stress. So all the chemicals that your brain produced because of stress are stored in all of your muscles and joints because it didn't find a good outlet to get rid of it all. Your heart, it causes increased blood pressure, a higher heart rate, and a higher incidence of heart attacks. Your stomach, all kinds of stomach issues happen. You're producing more acid in your stomach, which causes problems, and you're also not digesting well because your stomach is using the fight or flight method instead of the relaxation method that it needs to digest all your food. With your pancreas, stress can cause diabetes. In the intestines, poor absorption of a lot of foods. Reproductive system, difficulty getting pregnant, staying pregnant, all that can be related to stress. And then the immune system, people who frequently get sick, a lot of times they do have immune system problems, and that an underlying condition is because of all the stress. So what can you do to decrease your stress? We are passing around all kinds of smells. Make yourself a little bag of what you and your child think are helpful tools. If anybody needs letters written to their teachers about things that can help, you send me an email and I can help do that for you. So I've had kids who went to class and they had a baggie of a stress ball and oils that they could apply and gum at any point in time to help their brains be able to focus. And my own son, he was coming home from the 5th grade with over 3 hours of homework because his brain wasn't focusing. We had him chew gum in class, and all they had to do was check his work. So from 3 hours to me checking it, just from chewing gum. Drinking water. It is this miracle drink that helps decrease all of your headaches, fatigue. It flushes everything out. Water is amazing. Use the scents and flavors to help you increase alertness or to calm. And that's with a lot that we're passing around. Peppermint helps to wake you up. Lavender is a scent that typically helps you to calm down. Music can be so good. If you have soothing water music, it helps to calm you down. If you have drum beat music, anything with a beat, it helps your brain to be able to focus. There's also pressure points that we're going to work with right now. We're going to rub our eyes, take 2 fingers, And you're going to rub circles 10 times one way, and then 10 times the other way. It brings the blood back to the forebrain and helps you to be able to focus. You can also do it with your fingers crossed, and it adds in the brain crossing for you too. The next one is the sides of your eyes in a circle. 10 times one way, and then 10 times the other way. Your next step is right in front of your ears. 10 times one way, and then 10 times the other way. Go behind your ears, that little divot, 10 times one way, and then 10 times the other way. The last one we're going to do are called thinking caps that we did earlier. And so you take your fingers out and you rub them. Pull those ear flaps away. It is so important to put your own oxygen mask on when you're trying to deal with anxiety before you help out others. And that's something I still suffer with. I like to help others without taking time for myself as much as I should. If you look at all these people, nobody's got it on right. And that's what happens. If we rush and we try to take care of too many people without taking care of ourselves, we're all going to go under, like these people. Nobody, put it on straight, take care of your own stress levels, and then worry about taking care of the people around you. And now we're going to talk about some Bible verses that help to decrease anxiety. Sometimes when you're really stressed, if you can constantly say the same words over and over and over again, it can help with stress. So do not worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will worry about itself. Do not be anxious about anything. Sometimes I just say those words instead of the whole verse. Come to me, all you who are weary, and I will give you rest. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And there's a whole bunch there that you guys, I even post them sometimes on my car or on my mirror just so I can remember them when I'm really stressed. I want you guys to remember it's okay not to be okay. Life is crazy, and we're not always going to have our A game on. So sometimes we really do great, and other times we just survive. So I tell people, sometimes you thrive and sometimes you survive, and you kind of balance through the waves of life. So in closing, I can't promise that I will fix all your problems, but I can promise that none of you guys will have to face them alone. All of my contact information is on your sheets. Feel free to email me, to text me with any problems that you guys have. If anybody needs a certificate of completion for today, just send me an email and I will give you guys those. And the rest of this time now, we ended early on purpose because I wanted Josie to come up and give her testimony. And then I'm going to also have people all around if you guys have questions. I will be here. I have a school psychologist here, if you can raise your hand. So if you guys have questions about how to navigate the school system, she's willing to answer those. My friend Marianne, raise your hand. She's very good at the essential oils. She's an OT that works at Margaret Mary Hospital. She's trained in all the sensory input that I gave you guys, as well as reflex integration exercises that we went over today as well. Go ahead, Josie.
Okay, so I didn't really know what I was going to talk about that much, so apparently I'm giving my testimony.
Come over here so you're on the camera. There you go. So tell me what you noticed as you were a kid and stuff like that.
So when I was little, I had a hard time reading paying attention to people. Math was a big problem. I couldn't memorize numbers. I couldn't memorize like verses or anything. And that obviously became a problem in school. So the grades I was getting weren't that great. It took a long time to just get like one lesson done. And then obviously we went and got me tested for dyslexia, and that came back absolutely positive. I have dyslexia. And then I started doing the therapy with Sarah, and that helped out a lot. Just the little exercises that she has me doing before school helps me memorize. It helps me to pay attention better. Listening to music, that has helped out a lot. Paying attention, memorizing. And when you memorize something, it's a lot easier to learn and retain and learn more. So, yeah, that's helped out just a lot.
And now what would you say, like, when you look at words now? Do they still mix up as easily as they did before, or is it a little bit easier to see?
They still mix up a little, but not as bad as it used to be. And then obviously we're still working on it, and we'll try to get it to the point where it won't be.
Awesome, thank you. And she will be present in the back for anybody who has more questions for her. Thank you. If you guys have questions about photography, if you guys have sensory processing kiddos and it's almost impossible to get pictures of them that look really cute, my friend Sarah is in the back. She is amazing at taking pictures for the kids. She did all the photography for me with her daughter. Any other questions, just let me know, and we'll go from there. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I will be over here in the corner for anybody who has questions.